Harvey, that's 4 games unbeaten in all competitions now. Is this a team playing with real momentum at the right time?
Yeah, it's the way it feels. I think we're going into games at the minute feeling confident we're going to win, and that's the mindset we need for the rest of the season. Now we know we've got a lot to play for, and we just got to keep this run going.
Winning the Carabao Cup made it a great season for Newcastle, changing that history. But how much of a bigger season does it become if you achieve the goal of Champions League football?
It's huge, yeah. Obviously, that was one of our main aims this season was to win silverware, which we've done. But we made it quite clear after that we need to reset. There's a lot to play for, and we've started that period afterwards really well with 2 wins. So we've obviously had the joy of that, but we don't want the season now to finish on a downer by missing out. So we're fully focused on this.
A lot of what you're trying to achieve is all about mindset. Other teams are obviously trying to achieve the same. How difficult is it to come here tonight and make sure that the focus is 100% on?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think that's something that we really pride ourselves on is not having them slip-ups. We know that this Leicester team's been struggling, so we had to come here with full focus and not let ourselves sort of slip down or have a lack of concentration. And I thought we did that. I don't think we're at our best tonight. I would say that, but I think we got the goals at important times, and then the game got a bit scrappy, but it's a great result.
Perhaps, as you say, not at your best, but did we see the ruthlessness of Newcastle tonight?
Yeah, like I said, I think that the goals came at good times. That early goal gives the team such a boost. But as I said there, I'm sure that the team will look back, and I think we certainly weren't at our fluid best tonight, and be included in that. But we got the goals at the right times, and being 3 up in a game, it's a comfortable game then.
You have the games in hand. This is one of them tonight. You've got others to come. Manchester United, followed by Crystal Palace at home. How important was it you threw down your marker, though, tonight and made your statement?
Yeah, we know we're in a good position in the table. And, it's cliche, but all we can do is our job and win the games that we've got left. If we do that, we finish in the top 4 or 5. So, we know what we have to do, win the games, and hopefully then the teams are chasing us and we're not chasing them.
Harvey, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it comes right from the manager, doesn't it, Eddie Howe? The mindset, he mentioned that twice there today. They're focused and they're not at the best, but it's all about just getting those wins racked up now.
Yeah, they're in a good confidence-wise as well, Steve. It's so important in football. They're all feeling good about themselves. They all want to play. There's competition for places. When you look at the team tonight and the cup final team, the team against Brentford, he's kept the same starting 11. He's got a fixed team now. I know Anthony Gordon probably got to come back into that when he's fit. But again, it just feels good. Everything seems good about Newcastle. I know there's some big games on the horizon. There definitely is, and not easy games as well. But again, with Eddie Howe at the helm, I think he is very calm in everything he says, very focused, and wants to get the job done. I just feel that it's such a big moment for Newcastle. I really do. The trophies parked to one side, but if they can get back in the Champions League, 2 times in 3 years, it adds to the financial power they can have in the market. And if you want to catch the big boys at the top, you have to add every single window, and that'll be key to maybe keeping some of the bigger players that they already have, but actually adding to that in the summer as well, which I think Newcastle and the owners, they want to compete at the very, very top. They don't want to win just League Cups, they want to win the Premier League, they want to win Champions League, and you have to do that. You have to spend money. They've got that, but there's a few restrictions and they have to get past them as well.
With 8 games to go, having won a cup final, they've got another 8, haven't they? They've given themselves a real opportunity here of a memorable season becoming truly memorable.
Yeah, and I think momentum is such an important thing in sport, in any sport, in football especially. And I think now they've got the momentum. They're getting quite healthy at the right time. And Shay, Anthony Gordon comes back inside, as good as Harvey Barnes is, and Jacob Murphy's been amazing, by the way. But Gordon is, again, he's another player. He's a Champions League player. He's going to relish that opportunity to kick them into the Champions League. So I don't see them giving it up. I think you look at United at home. They'll beat Man United at home if they played to their normal level. Getting Crystal Palace at home, you'd expect that. Look, they're tough fixtures, Aston Villa, but again, I just think the momentum's on their side. And then obviously the last 3, Chelsea, Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal, Everton. It's all to play for. But again, go back to momentum. I think they've got it, and I think they'll finish the job, finish 4th or 5th.
And Villa and Chelsea are actually 2 of their rivals for a Champions League spot. I mean, they look absolutely huge, leaping off the page.
Yeah, they are. They're massive fixtures. as I said before, they're not easy, Steve, there's no doubt about that. But what you would say when you look at them fixtures, 5 of them are at home. St James's Park, we talk about, you know, a cauldron of football, a cauldron atmosphere, a tough place to go for any team, and even, you know, even the likes of, you know, Arsenal and the likes have struggled there in the past. But Aston Villa obviously are on the up, it seems. Chelsea are, you're not sure what you're going to get with them. But Man City as well, we sort of skirt over Man City. Everyone thinks Man City automatically is going to qualify for the Champions League, but there's no guarantees.
Well, they finished this weekend out of those.
Well, that's what I mean. So, you know, Pep Guardiola will be looking at the game tonight as well, thinking, tell you what, the pressure's starting to mount up. But Newcastle are in a good position, and that's all you can ask. Roll in the next game, bring the next game on Sunday. Manchester United at home, which is key as well.
I mean, I was just looking at the fixtures to see who's playing who, because that's what it comes down to, really. And Man City have pretty, you know, easy fixtures.
Villa, haven't they?
Yeah, but I think they're looking at the fixtures. I think Man City will probably make it, looking at who they had left. And Chelsea have really difficult fixtures. So look, there's a lot to happen still. I mean, Aston Villa is still...
Would even Forest be a little nervous? Because if, as I say, Newcastle win that game in hand, they're a point behind Forest.
The one thing I would say is Forest haven't been here before. Pretty much everybody else is kind of... And I do think it helps when you've been in this environment once before. I do think if you look at their body of work, they're a third-place team, home, away, in all these stats, which is relevant. But again, there's a bit of pressure now to perform, and they haven't really been there. So even the manager. So I do think they'll come under a bit of pressure, but they look solid defensively. But I think that table's going to change come the end of the season. I think we might get a surprise.
It's going to be fascinating, isn't it? Because it's so huge, with the 5th place potentially there as well. The financial gains, you're guaranteed 8 group games in the new format. I mean, this is some race now we've got here.
It is. And Nottingham Forest you mentioned and deserve a great mention because the season they've had. But I've sort of said every week that they're not going to end up in the Champions League. You know, they had a defeat at the weekend. How will they bounce back from that? And as you rightly said, if Newcastle won that game in hand against Fulham, they're a point behind them. And Owen's right as well. They've not been there before. They've been in relegation fights and trying to stay in the league and battling. And everyone's given them plaudits all season, and rightly so. But if they haven't got their hands on that Champions League, which maybe they actually think as well, we've done it, then these big teams, you know, circling like sharks behind them, will be going, we've got an opportunity to pull them back into the pack.
Let's look at this terrific start they got tonight. I mean, dream for Newcastle, nightmare for Leicester. 113 seconds in.
Well, Eddie Howe's message would have been, Steve, in the train, we'd come out fast, we come out of the traps. Again, you know, Owen talked about Joe Linton had the freedom of the park in the midfield, and then talk about Christensen on the back post. Really poor defending from him. Look at Joe Linton's space next to the referee. You know, the balance in midfield is all wrong from a Leicester point of view. One of the midfielders should be across, and they get attracted to the ball. Now, Joe Linton can't believe his luck, and then they got an overload 2v1 on the outside, and we've seen this even in the cup final, you know, sprinting down the outside, Livramento, cross to the back post, but they'll dig out Christensen. He looks at Murphy once. We roll it on a couple more frames. He looks at him again. There's no way Murphy should score a goal at this point, Steve. No chance. Maybe Hermansen, the goalkeeper, should do better as well. But it's a poor defensive goal. But again, I'm trying to go in the positive in Newcastle. It's a brilliant goal, a brilliant start, and you can imagine what that's done to the team. Here we go again. Brilliant start. Roll on the next goal.
And the flip side is you can imagine what that's done to Leicester, given that predicament.
Worst start ever. And they lose the tackle. The midfield bounces off. Then they lose the tackle. Somebody jumps out of that tackle, and then Joelinton's in space. I mean, that's a minute into a game, and you've had probably one of the worst seasons ever a team's had. And you think, right, come on, let's finish this season strong. And that's what you do after a minute. You know, you're jumping out of tackle, bounces in there. You're not tracking runners, people at the back post. I feel sorry for the managers. I feel sorry for Ruud because that is, you know, they just haven't been up to the level they needed this season in the Premier League. They've been punished every time they made mistakes.
Jacob Murphy got 2 on the night, but we were inches away from almost an iconic Premier League moment here with Fabian Schär.
Well, this guy is the job that Eddie Howe's done with him as well. I think he inherited Schär, and he's recently just signed a new contract. I think he's 33, he's getting on a bit. But we talk about confidence in football, and that's your centre half, inside his own half, dancing off his line. And as you say, that's Beckham, like when he hits Schär, he's on the front foot, but at that point you're looking to pass it into Isak or Murphy and like an easy pass. He's thinking, hang on a minute, no, the goalkeeper's off his line. Tell you what, I'll have a pop. And how close is that, Steve? And then we laughed a wee bit at half-time because Jacob's second touch, you can see when it comes back to him here, is very heavy and he gets away with it perhaps, you know, but Hermansen's probably, I'll be in this position myself, scrambled at this point. I think if he stays on his feet, he might have a better chance of catching it, but you know, it's a brilliant strike from Schär. Watch Murphy's second touch here. Just goes off his left shin really heavy, but he just managed to get there before the keeper, and it's a tidy finish. But You can see Murphy, his heart's coming through his chest because he thought he had such a bad touch.
What a brilliant strike. I mean, again, they really struggled to keep the ball, I thought, Leicester today. And a lot of the goals were in transition. Leicester, you saw on the top of that clip, the goalkeeper's off his line, they're trying to play football. But that execution from Shay is amazing, really is. And credit Murphy, by the way. He's behind 3 Leicester defenders, but he makes that ground up. He keeps running, the defenders stop, and he keeps running because he realised, look, it could come out. And that's exactly what it did.
And the mad thing of that last shot as well, he's right what he says. There was 3 Leicester defenders had 5 yards from Murphy, and even when he takes 3 touches, there's still no one in the picture to get back and defend. It should be panic stations when that ball, they've given up, haven't they?
But that's probably, again, that's from the manager. Eddie saying, right, we keep going, we keep pushing, we take chances, we keep running, attack us, get on the back post for the first goal. Second goal, can we get runners in case the goalkeeper drops it? That's exactly what happens, and I think that's a lot of that's down to Eddie Howe.
And then 3 before half-time, Harvey Barnes back at his old club, following in as you should do in this situation.
Yeah, well, Owen mentions about Leicester being on the attack, but the problem is when they are on the attack is probably they're so vulnerable then because, the pace with Barnes and Isak, it's a 2v2 situation. But when you sort of freeze it and pause it down to one stage, look at the many Leicester players that get back into a defensive position but don't really do nothing. The header doesn't get cleared, the keeper doesn't bang it out of trouble. There's so many mistakes that happen after. But look at, this is what Newcastle are good at, don't get me wrong. They're really quick on the counter-attack. They're so incisive when they get into these positions. The final third, we talk about Isak every single week. His one thought is to get a shot on goal. That's a very poor header, to be honest. Joe Linton capitalises. Decent save from Hermansen, but take nothing away from Harvey Barnes. A bit like the Murphy second goal. He's following in, he's thinking danger. The Leicester defenders are on their heels, sleeping, call it what you want. It's poor defending, but take nothing away from Barnes. He's got a goal at his old club.
I mean, remarkably, Leicester had more possession in that game. And all the goals came from the fact that they're trying to play, even though they struggled to score, they conceded too many goals. And Newcastle hit them on the counter every time. I mean, it was, again, we could see that coming before the game. We would have thought maybe Leicester would have game plan for that, but Newcastle are just too strong.
OK, so it is 4 wins in a row for Newcastle in all competitions and their manager, Eddie Howe.
Eddie, well done. 4 games unbeaten, all competitions. Momentum is a big word spoken about in football. Have you got the momentum to achieve your final objective, do you sense, at this moment in time?
Yeah, well, I think we're in a good place. Today was always going to be a difficult game for us. But we started the game so strongly and put ourselves in a great position from that moment. I think it was a really good win for us. I don't think we played at our very best. But we're playing with a confidence and a feeling that we're in a good place, but we're going to need to be because the next 3 games we've got coming up are really tough.
Just how crucial was the start, particularly here tonight? Did you have to show how ruthless you could be against a team that's struggling with a crowd that's very much seemingly turning against their team at this moment in time?
Well, I think going into the game that if you can start fast and get the first goal, it can have a massive influence on the game, and you're always looking to impose yourself, but we did that really well. The first goal I thought was of high quality. The move between Joe Linton's pass, Tino, Harvey Barnes, and then Tino's cross for Jacob was, I thought, first class.
Jacob Murphy at the moment in time, is he in the best form of his Newcastle career, particularly in those areas around the back post?
Yeah, he's definitely up there for him. I think he's played well all season for us. I think he's always been a great team player for us, very good work ethic, very good defensive understanding. But this season in particular, he's added more goals and assists to his game. Today, great to see him get the 2 goals, 2 different goals. But I'm really pleased for him because he's such a player for the team more than anything else, that he's getting some individual recognition.
Is a man who perhaps isn't getting as much recognition, Fabian Schär, the strike, almost David Beckham-like, from inside his own half, hits the crossbar. How much does he bring to your team?
Well, he brings a flair that not many centre-backs can bring, and there were another typical Fabian moment where I don't think many other players would have seen that. He did, but he's also got the technical brilliance to execute it under pressure, and for a split second I thought the ball was in, but it's hit the bar, and thankfully Jacobs followed up with a rebound. There's not many centre-backs in world football that can do what he can do.
Winning that Carabao Cup, as we spoke about before, was a huge moment in the history of the club and that particular part of the North East. But in the back of your mind, is there also a danger when you achieve something like that? It's, can we now go on and push on from there? Have your team shown that they're got that ability to go on and kick on now?
Well, I think you make a great point, because there was a worry when we won the cup competition that suddenly we drop. Just a subconscious feeling that you've achieved a massive high, and then there's a fallout from that. So the big challenge we laid to the group was, can we go again? Can we put that aside, not forget it, remember it, but forget it sort of in terms of influencing our performances. Take the confidence from the cup final and how we played, and they've done that really well. We've gone back to the Premier League, we've won 2 tough games, and now we have 3 tough ones in a week coming up.
It's another unpleasant night for everybody involved with the football club. Give us your observations on that 90-plus minutes.
Yeah, it's clear where it went wrong very early in the game. Again, I have to say, unfortunate. And then after 10 minutes and I think 30 or 33 minutes, we lost the game. And that's a tough one to take.
Particularly with the first goal. You've got 5 defenders there. Is it a preventable goal from your perspective?
Yeah, I think if we look at the 3 goals carefully, I think we could have done better ourselves in all 3 goals. You can see the duel that we miss and the back post where we were in a good position but don't clear the ball. The second and the third, we lose the ball in positions where we can't lose it. And then Newcastle is deadly in the counter-attack, and they finished off the game very quickly.
You spoke, as you did to us before the game, about passion and commitment. With the second goal you concede, the ball comes off the crossbar, and there appears a lack of reaction from your players. How worrying is that? And what do you put that down to?
No, what is worrying is, of course, the run of form, the lack of goals, the lack of results we can produce, and trying different things, different structures, different players in different positions, and the results are not there, and that's the worrying thing.
It's the 4th time in the row you've played the same team. You resisted the attempt to change. Is that because you believe that starting 11 is the best you have? Or you just don't sense you have the options elsewhere?
No, of course, but looking over the course of the last months, we try different things and different structures and different ways to play with different personnel who suit those structures, and you want to give that a chance as well, and that's what we try to do. If you keep changing every week, then of course you can't see that progress. But of course it's very worrying.
It's the first time for 48 years since Sunderland did it that a team in the top flight in the same season has gone 8 games without scoring. You're a striker yourself. You know what it takes to score goals at the highest level. What can you do to change these players' mindset?
It's difficult. It shows. It shows. I mean, it's a confidence thing. In the second half, you can also see when there's no pressure anymore in the game to play, it frees people up, and then you see some reasonable football going forward. But okay, when the pressure's on to win games, to stay in games, then it becomes very difficult. And then with an early couple of goals, and then it collapses.
Difficult for the players, but how also difficult for you? It can be a lonely place out there. How hard is it to manage in this situation? The fans, obviously, you saw a lot left the stadium, a lot of booing. Yeah. It must hurt your pride. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Of course, it's difficult. You come here to do well and work together with great people here at the club and the players. And of course, when you can't get results, that is very disappointing. The intent has always been there to bring the club further. The club is the most important thing, and what's best for the club is you always have to consider, and that's, I think, the place where we are now.
I hope you will understand my next question. It's a difficult moment for this club with a proud tradition. Do you sense that you have it within you to change the shape of it this season, whatever the outcome of that may be? Do you still have the fight within you and the want to go on with this project?
You know, this is a difficult night, especially also in the run of form that we're in. It's important to analyse this and sleep on it and recover. from it, and that's it for now.
Are there questions in your mind when you say you have to sleep on it? Are there questions?
No, there's no questions. It's just dealing with this setback, another one, and that's for now what I can say.
They certainly do. Shay, we talk about Eddie Howe's management all the time. We know him well and how he gets, to use an analogy, every bit of juice out of the orange and improves players wherever he's been. Is Jacob Murphy a perfect example of that? He's been at Newcastle 8 years, and he was saying that he's probably in his best ever spell.
Well, it's mental to think that Jacob, because a couple of seasons ago, Jacob was looked at as a squad player, a good lad to have around the group. You know, his attitude's brilliant, he's bubbly in training, but never really starts, comes off the bench a few times. But he's really stepped up to the plate this season. He really has. His assists.
Is that the belief from the manager, do you think?
Well, definitely. I think Eddie does that with every player. You know, you talk about Shay, he's included as a player before. You talk about all the single players. You go through Isak. I know he paid 63 million for him, but he's a better player now than when Eddie signed him. He's worked at him, and take nothing away, he's got a team of staff behind him as well, working very, very hard behind the scenes that we don't see on all these players. But Murphy is a really good example because, you know, people would say, oh, he's just a squad player. He's not the player that's going to get us to the Champions League positions. He's not the player that's going to win us a trophy. But he's actually proven to everyone he actually is the player who can get them to the Champions League. He is the player who can win a trophy. And not just what he brings in training and good around the camp. He's actually a really good player. This season, him and Isak have got a real, you know, pairing, lots of assists, lots of goals, and 2 tonight. He's been brilliant.
You know what? I like the fact that Murphy actually, nowadays, we always see, I mean, Messi, obviously, a left footer on the right wing. I like the fact that there's a right footer on the right wing because he can cross it. And that's, you know, I think that's Murphy's probably his best trait. He can score goals, but he's creating goals for people because he's right footed. He's not trying to come in, he's not trying to come inside and shoot like all the left footers. You know, we see that with pretty much all the right wingers that are left footed. They come inside and they shoot, cross the ball. Your job's to cross the ball. And I think, like Alan Shearer, he would have loved to have a Murphy type, somebody that gets it out wide and crosses it. I think he does that brilliantly. And I think that's one of the reasons why Isak's having so much success is the fact with players like Murphy, getting it out the feet and they get it into him early and they're brilliant at converting those crosses.
Yeah, and we hear he's just said in his interview that Cher should have passed the ball before he'd had a shot. So. But Eddie Howe's right, isn't he? There's not too many centre-halves in world football would have tried that.
No, and I mean, to be fair, their recruitment's been brilliant in Newcastle, but that was from the previous regime, I think, so that's not one they can take. But he can play, technically he's really good, he's physical, and he's got a touch of class, and I think he's been brilliant. And no wonder he signed a contract to extend because I think he's just been a class act in there. When Botman's back, you know, that's a brilliant pairing.
So many positives for Newcastle tonight then. An unwanted 8 consecutive home defeats without scoring a goal. No team in top flight history have ever done that before. They're 15 points away from safety with a worse goal difference. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but do they just want this season to end at the moment? They've got 7 more games to play and little hope of changing the narrative.
It must be so hard going into training every day. You know you're going to get relegated, you've still got 7 games left. I mean, you look at that graphic there. They conceded 21 goals in 10 games. You know, you haven't
not scored 1.
And you've not scored 1. I mean, that is just to go into every game thinking that everybody's saying, come on guys, let's try, you know. And then you start that game like you did today in a minute. So for the players, it must be really demoralising, but they're obviously going to go down. They've got to find a way, have a good summer, recruit well, which they haven't done for the last 4 or 5 years. That's why they are where they are. And they need to get out of the Championship really quick.
Yeah, it's the opposite of Newcastle. We talk about the confidence, bring on the next game. Everyone's buzzing in training, everyone's buzzing in games. Leicester, as you say, tomorrow, imagine what the atmosphere is like in training. They've broke unwanted records that nobody wants, can't score a goal. You know, it'll probably take a goal in training at this stage. It's that poor, and you feel for Van Nistelrooy and his staff and the team, because all you want to do is win a game of football. At the end of the day, you're a footballer. If it's a 5-a-side or in the Premier League, you want to win. And if you're losing every single week, Steve, it's demoralising, it really is. But his job, Ruud Van Nistelrooy, he's got to pick them up again. I know they're staring down the barrel, but his job as the manager, as the head of the football club, is to go in tomorrow and go, that's done, on to the next game. We have to get back to scoring ways and try and just get a result, try and get some respectability to their season.
Is that, I was going to say impossible, but I mean, bordering on when you're in that kind of run?
No, it's not. You know what? It's not really, because you have to believe every time that you can do something. But they gotta cut out on mistakes. I don't know. They gotta change something. You played 2 strikers today. That didn't work. You know, they got outnumbered in midfield. So, you know, try something different. Play with a little bit of courage. You're going to go down anyway, but it also gives you an opportunity to see who's going to be there for next season. Who can you rely on? I don't think they've been good enough defensively. the centre backs, they've rotated, they've chopped and changed. And I think obviously it's a bit late to figure that out. But play the young lads. We saw he brought on, how old was he?
15 and 271
Absolutely
days.
unbelievable. So obviously, and I think now's an opportunity, 7 games, play some of the kids from the academy, and give the fans a bit of confidence. Try and create some goals, score some goals. If you haven't scored in 10 games, play the kids. And because you know what the kids have? No fear. They'll play and they'll have a goal. So I think that could probably be the only positive finish this season.
But for Newcastle, plenty to look forward to. Manchester United at St James's next. You know what that fixture's like as well?
Special game, yeah. I mean, the Newcastle fans love when Man United come to town. The place will be absolutely rocking on Sunday. And on the back of, obviously, back-to-back Premier League wins and winning the Cup as well. It's I think they'll relish that, because so many years Newcastle fans have suffered Man United home and away because they've been so good over the years, haven't they? Maybe it's Man United's turn to suffer on Sunday because Newcastle are relishing not just Man United coming to town, but the position in the league, Steve. They can really capitalise and really push home that they're in for the Champions League again, and that's I can't say that enough times. They're really in the driving seat to get one of them spots.